What's up, y'all? This is One and Done Weekly. My name is Sarah, and today I want to talk to you about stress. But not just general run-of-the-mill stress. I mean stress that causes either a fight, flight, or freeze response. Let me start with a story. So back when I was in college, it was the summer of my junior and senior year. So between that summer, I was living in a college apartment over the summer. I'd taken some summer classes, and then between semesters, I was working, and there was a point where I went on, basically for about 2 weeks, I was gone. So I was working as a counselor in a camp. So when I come back, at the end of that 2 weeks, I knew that my summer was kind of coming to an end, but I come back and I find this sign on my door that says, "This is your notice that you need to be out in 2 weeks." And it just so happened that they had posted that notice. When I looked at the date, they had posted the notice like the day after I had left 2 weeks prior, which meant that I needed to be out of my apartment by the next day. So as far as my fight, flight, or freeze response, I discovered in that moment that that was the beginning of realizing I tend to freeze when I am in stress. I wish I were a fighter, but I noticed that only comes out when my friends or loved ones are in stress. Then I suddenly become this fighter that's like, come on. But if it's me, I'm just like, all right, I guess this is it. So I was frozen on the outside. On the inside, I felt gymnasts just doing like tumbling in my belly. Felt a little bit nauseated. And I called my friend. I had a really close friend that was living, going to the same college as me. And I called him and I said, I need help. And he was like, what's wrong? And I said, turns out I've got to be out of my apartment by tomorrow. And he said, do you have a place to go? And I was like, I do. And he said, okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes. That's how you know you've got a good friend, is when you need to move and they're at your doorstep, right? So he showed up. I did have a place to go because my best friend that I was going to live with for the semester already had an apartment ready for us, thank God. But I go into my apartment. I immediately start pulling stuff off the shelves. I'm just kind of like going crazy because I'm freaking out, right? And so he shows up. I'm like this in the middle of the floor, just like because you have to understand, I want things done in an orderly fashion, and I knew that in 24 hours, none of it was going to be orderly. So that was already making it just so stressful. So he looks at me, he looks at the stuff, and he says, we need bags. We need big trash bags. We're just going to take all your stuff, dump it in those trash bags, haul it to your new place. I cringed a little bit because that is the opposite of organized. But then I was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. And so we did it. We did the thing. We threw everything in trash bags. We got it over to my new place by the end of the night. So this was in a matter of hours. By the end of the night, I was standing in my new apartment. We had hauled my bed. I had bags everywhere. And we did it. And I wasn't super thrilled about the mess that I was going to have to come home to, but bought my friend a pizza, the common currency of college students. And then we did it. I got out in time, thankfully. So why is this important? What does this matter? This is important because, number one, we all deal with stress, obviously. But the biggest reason this is important is because I truly believe that how we do one thing is how we tend to do everything else. And so even though the story I'm presenting to you is a story that it's like stress in an instant, like the kind of like boom sort of stress, I believe that if you stretch that out over time, and make it chronic stress that a lot of us deal with, how you deal with that instantaneous moment, you're gonna deal with it generally in that way. So looking back now, if I were to coach past Sarah, if I were her coach, the way I would approach this with her is ask her, do you find that you react to stressful situations like this in any other ways? Like, do you see this in any other part of your life? And she would have said yes, of course. And so what that turns into is, over time, my tendency is, if something is scary to me, I just freeze up. But I wouldn't have stopped there in coaching her. I would then ask her, what was the thing that got you out of being stuck in that moment? For me, the thing that got me out of being stuck obviously was having another person there who wasn't so close to it, who could give me advice. And that is also PS why having a coach or a therapist of some kind is so important. But coming back to the point, the thing that my friend was able to give me in that moment was one thing, one simple action to focus on. We need trash bags. We're dumping everything into the trash bags. That was it. So prior to that, I had been thinking, the reason I was frozen was I was thinking one word, gotta move. But one word for me represented all of these things, right? Gotta get boxes, gotta get labels, gotta sort, gotta get rid of stuff, all of these things. And he just, boom, in a moment bypassed all of that stuff that might be good. It's all good stuff if you have time. But in this moment, I didn't have time and I couldn't do it. And he was able to cut through that. So what that means for me is now, after having several experiences in my life where I get this like freeze response and then find out that the thing that pulls me out of it is just one simple action, now I can do that in my life. So fast forward to this week, we're in the process of moving, and I say moving, we're not moving yet, but the point is, at any point, the place we're living in could be rented out and then we would have to move it quickly. And so I got word today that we might have to move like next weekend. And guess what? I experienced my freeze response. Immediately I was like, Dad, that's so close. It's not tomorrow, thank God, but it's so close. And then I felt the gymnast in my belly again. But then guess what? I knew because I've taken this unconscious way that I respond and brought it to the light of my own awareness. I knew that all I need right now is one action. Just one thing to get me out of the mud. And I identified it and then boom, flow. I found flow. And so now if we do have to move next weekend, I'm not freaked out. We got this. So what can you do with this today? What I invite you to do is to find your typical stress response. And the easiest way to do that is to find out where are, not the chronic stress. We're gonna find the immediately acute stress. How do you respond to acute stress? So the way you would do that is just find an example. When was the last time that you had that sort of deer in the headlights, like something hit you in a moment? Did you respond by freezing? Did you run away? Or did you just get angry and start doing things that maybe weren't productive because you were just in a rage? Identify that. And then identify what brought you out of it. How did you get out of it? And write those things down. I'm not saying that tomorrow you'll be able to just deal with the next stressful thing that hits you, but I am saying that just like everything else we do with the one and done, when we take our unconscious response and we make it conscious, then we can change it. And what that turns into is transformation that happens. You can transform at that point because you can find your way forward. So if any of this resonates with you, drop me a comment below. Let me know if you want to share your typical stress response or any response you had to this video. Definitely let me know. Have a wonderful Thursday, and yeah, here we go.